Hey everyone, Jeff Sheets from TrueFire here. In this episode of Spark, we're going to talk about having big ears. Now, not physical big ears like Dumbo the elephant or certain political figures, but big ears from a musical standpoint. So there's a couple ways that we hear this talked about. One is with engineers or producers. They sometimes have big ears, or sometimes we call them golden ears, which means they can really dial in a mix. They can make sure every instrument is just at the right level. They can put everything in the proper spot in the stereo spectrum. They really have the ability to dial in a good mix. Sometimes we hear guys talk about guitar players, and when they're dialing in effects or tones, having great ear for tone. But what we're really going to talk about today is the more normal way people say when musicians have big ears or great ears is related to pitch recognition. All right. So in other words, being able to hear notes, being able to hear chords, being able to tell what notes and what scales go over what chords, basically just understanding more of the harmonic concept of what's going on in music. So that's a really important thing to have for musicians, and I'm going to show you two ways, two techniques that you can use to basically improve your musical ear, all right? The first thing that we have to do in order to improve our musical ear is have a belief that it can actually get better. So often I see students who say, I just don't have a very good musical ear. I'm just not very musical. I just can't hear those notes very well. And they sort of give up because they use the excuse, well, I just wasn't born with a great musical ear. And it's usually followed up with a story about, cousin Johnny who, he can hear all kinds of notes, man. He can pick up songs just by grabbing a guitar and picking them up. So it's the whole nature versus nurture, innate talent versus developed talent. So that's a big argument. We're not going to go through all those details right now. But I will say that having taught literally thousands of students over the years, there certainly seems to be a curve there to where some students just naturally are able to basically pick up on pitches, hear things better than others. So whether they were born that way or developed that early on, there's no doubt that perfect pitch, I've had a couple students that had perfect pitch that couldn't even play a G chord, but they could tell what every note was. So they didn't know how they got it. It was just the way it was. It does appear that some of that is the way they were born. They just had that hearing capability. However, no matter where you are, if you've got great ears or if you can't tell the difference between a major and minor chord, you've got a tin ear, people have told you can't carry a tune in a paper bag. Even if you're at that point, you can improve where you are. You can get better. So this is all about learning how to get better no matter where you are. So you got to get that idea out of your head that, well, it's just natural. You either can hear really well, you either have big ears or not. It's not true. You can develop a good musical ear, and that's what we're going to do here today. The second part of that is you have to realize that developing a good musical ear isn't like an instantaneous thing, right? So it takes a little while to see it happen. Unlike if I was going to show you a new scale and I played, even if you'd never played that before, you could sort of figure out the fingering, and within a few minutes you could go through it. You might not be a master of it, but you could get through it. So you could see immediate improvement. That's not really the case with ear training. With your ear training, you may not see any improvement. You might feel like, wow, I'm not getting any better at this. But you will get better if you stick with it. So hang in there with it for 3 or 4 months, really work on your ear, and you're going to see a difference then. You're just not going to see a difference from one training session and then the next one all of a sudden, you got great ears now. So it takes some time. Let's look at the two ways that we can immediately start to see a pattern to what we're going to do and how we're going to train and get better at this. So the first thing that most people, especially if you're struggling with this or just starting out trying to develop your ear, the reason that you want to do that is so you can learn songs. Most guys want to try to learn songs, be able to listen to a song and pick it up and play the guitar part. Practice a little bit and you got it. How can we do that? So the best thing I can tell you is start small. You have to start with really small steps to try to get this down. If you're playing a rock song, you can't listen to some complex, crazy song and just then think you can learn it. You need to start with a very simple, basic power chord song, chunking power chords, and try to figure that out. If you want to learn a blues solo, you can't start with some blistering 8-bar solo, listen to the whole thing, and then try to figure it out. What you need to do is start with something simple and start small. So just pick out the first note. Play your recording, listen to the first note, stop. Try to find that first note. The problem is a lot of people try to play, several licks, and then they start trying to figure them out, and they can't, find the notes because it's just too jumbled for them. So you have to start with one note. For example, if we were playing a blues solo, we got a solo that starts with this note. And it's going to do something else, but it's just going to start with that note. What I want you to do, play the recording, listen to that note, hit stop. You're going to stop the recording, and now you're going to see if you can find out where that note is. So you can kind of guesstimate it's sort of middle of the neck. It's not super high, super low, but you might say maybe it's right here. And as you play that, you may immediately know that's not it. So what you want to do is play the original recording again. And now if you can sing the note, that's really helpful. So try to sing that note. But if you can't sing it, don't worry about it. That's just another thing you're going to freak out about and worry about not being able to sing on pitch. So don't worry about it. Just get that in your ear and then try to find the note. What I want you to do is this. It's really simple. You play the recording, then you play a note, then you ask yourself this one question. Is the note I just played higher or lower than the original note? So here's the original note. Your note, if it's wrong, has to be either higher in pitch or lower in pitch. So here's our original note, and this is my note I played. Well, you can tell that's higher. So then I need to go down with that. So I'll play it here. Is that it? Now, here's the trap that most people fall into, is they do that, and then they go, no, I think it's lower. Maybe it's really low. No, it's not that low. Is it there? Is it there? So what's happened by now? Well, using this sort of hunt and peck method, by now, I don't even remember what the original note was. I don't even have that in my ear. I've seen students so many times do that and start doing this, and they play the original note, but they don't even recognize it because that was so long ago and they've got all these other notes in their ear. So, don't do that, right? Play a couple notes. If that's not it, go back, play the original recording. Listen to the original note. Play the original recording. There it is. So you can see when I just played that, and if I play one or two notes, then it's easier to hear that. So once again, baby steps, right? Take it really slow. Don't try to get too much information going on at once. Just get that one note down. And then you're going to get the second note down the same way, and the third note. Now, if this is difficult for you, if you struggle with this, don't worry. Try to do what you can one day and then come back the next day and do it. You may get one note today, and maybe tomorrow you come back and you get two notes. If a particular song or melody that you've picked out seems to be really hard, maybe it's because there's a weird effect on guitar or there's a funky mix. Just move on to another song. Just scrap that one, try to pick up something else, all right? You will eventually get to where you can pick out those melody notes. It'll take you a while, but you have to just realize that as you're doing the process, you're going through this, you're getting better. That's where the improvement happens, okay? So the one other thing to talk about with this is chords. When you're trying to figure out chords, if we got this chord, don't worry about finding and listening to every single note in there. There's a lot of information there for your ear. So just listen to the low note. So it's a good idea to try to find the low note. That guy right there. Because for most chords, not always, but for most chords, if you find that low note, that's the root note. So if that's the root note, that tells you what the chord is. So if we hear this and we find, oh, there's that note, we know that's a G. So now I can go to G chord. Then you can, experiment with figuring out, is it G major, G minor, G dominant 7 chord, what kind of G, what are the other notes in there, what position it is. But if you get that low note, that's a really good way to be able to find chord progressions, okay? So that's what I want you to work on with learning songs. That's the first technique. Now for the second thing, the second technique I want to give you to improve your musical ear is a little bit different, but it's going to be basically trying to play a melody that you have in your ear or in your head. So really, this is something that you don't have to listen to something. I want you to play a melody that you know so well, like a nursery rhyme, a Christmas song, whatever, the Star Spangled Banner, or Silent Night, or real simple. Mary had a little lamb. Doesn't matter. It's something that you know so well that you don't have to hear it. You just have it in your head. Then what you're going to do is you're going to pick a note somewhere on the neck. Can be low, can be high, wherever. If we're going to do Silent Night, right, I'll play this note. That's the first note. Once again, doesn't matter where you start. So what we're going to do is use the same technique that we basically had before. We're going to play this note, and then is the next note that I need to play higher or lower than that note? That's what I need to determine. So I play that note, and again, if you can sing it once again, great. And then you go, the next one's higher, right? No. There it is. And then what happens? It goes back to the original note. So you're hearing this melody in your head and you're trying to play it. So there's the first part, right? So it's important to play that first part. And then we know the next note goes down, right? You can hear bum, 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 and then it's going to drop down. So that's that simple method of is it higher or lower? Don't worry about how far or where it is. So you're going to play it. Now the good news is, usually with these types of melodies, they're not all over. I don't play a note here, then one up here, then one down here. They're usually in one area. So if you figure out a couple notes, you've got a good start. So now I need to find that lower note. There it is, right? So anyway, I can start building that, but always go back and play what you've just played, play what you know, and then do the next part. Don't start just trying to randomly search around and find a note, right? Go melody. Now we're going to go higher. So that's what you want to do, is build it one note at a time and try to do that. Once I can play that here, then I might want to go and start on, this note. Or I might want to go down and start on this note. Now, it's going to be similar in that it's going to go up or down in the same place, but because of the way the guitar's tuned and different fingering, different shapes, it may be a different pattern. So that's really going to be a good test for your ear, okay? So if you can do that and practice on learning how to play various melodies, as you get better and your ear improves, you can make the melodies more complex and try to do more difficult things. So that's a pretty cool thing to do. Take these two techniques and practice them. So to recap, we have 5 things you have to do, right? Number 1, you have to believe that it is possible to get better. You got to believe that your ear can improve. It's not, oh, I just wasn't born with a good ear, I'm not very musical. Nope, you can get better at it. Number 2, you have to realize that it's going to take a while. So this is a long process. Give me 4 months doing this, and then we'll talk about whether you've got a good ear or not, because I guarantee you it will improve your ear. Number 3, start with the technique of learning how to play a song, learning a song from a recording by taking it slow, small chunks, one note at a time, just one note at a time. Keep it really simple. It's going to take a little while, but that's how you build that ear up, right? Number 4, you can take a melody and basically play any melody that you have in your head, a really simple melody, and just try to find it on guitar. You can't do enough of that. I mean, the more of those you can do, the better off you're going to be. Try to find melodies. It may be difficult at first. So if you struggle with this, don't worry. Just, keep doing it, and it's going to get easier to get better. And then number 5, if you put in the time doing this and improving your ear, it will help all of your musical endeavors, right? It makes you so much of a better guitar player for learning what chords go together and sound great together, learning what notes fit over what chords, how to solo better. I mean, every aspect of your guitar playing will improve if you work on your ear. Working on your ear might not be as sexy as learning some cool arpeggio shape or some weird funky chord thing, but it's something that you may not see, others may not see it, but they will definitely notice it. If you get a better ear, you're going to be a much better player. So put in the time, work on this, and you too can have big ears. So thanks, guys. I'm Jeff Sheets from TrueFire. Go to TrueFire.com to find all kinds of cool courses that will help you with your ear and develop some cool chops. We'll see you next time.